Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another session of eNISHIT, the National Initiative to Strengthen Collaboration between HIV and TB through e-learning. I would like to begin the session by welcoming all our centers, ART centers from AP, Tamil Nadu, and Northeast who have spared their valuable time. And I can also see BHU Varanasi and another center from UP, I think. So, welcome everyone. And I am really grateful that you spare this important time for this learning initiative. I'm really grateful for that. Good afternoon, Dr. Pradeep. So, and then I would like to first and foremost introduce our expert for the day. Our expert for the day is Dr. Kalpana Datta, and we are really very fortunate to have her. She is a very senior member of the pediatric TRG, and she is one of that select team that makes guidelines for children with or for CLHIV in this country. She is the director of the Center of Excellence for Pediatrics in Medical College, Kolkata, and we are very fortunate to have her today and have her delivering this very important lecture. It is such a apt thing to actually go to the main source of all information for the talk. Welcome, madam, on our show.
Thank
Uh,
you.
and then I would like to welcome the presenter, Dr. Amreshwar from KGH Vizag, who would be making a case presentation. And then with this welcome, I would like to introduce my team. On the screen from the studio, you can see Dr. Anuradha Monga, who manages this whole initiative. It is her hard work that makes this possible. I can see Prateek, who manages multiple clinics. Then there must be Rakesh somewhere who is looking into the IT thing. And then I am Dr. Upasana Agarwal, and I manage the ART center at NITRD. So with these few words, I would request all of you to kindly give us your attentive listening. And it's always a pleasure when participants are interactive. It is very rare that we do a children related session in Initiate. So I would really appreciate if all of you could clear your CLHIV related doubts from Madam today. Uh, and now I would like to introduce our presenter for today. The presenter for today is the medical officer of the ART Center from KGH Vizag, Dr. Amreshwar, who would be presenting a case of a child living with HIV/AIDS. And he has brought to our attention a very, very interesting case. And I am really happy that this case was brought to this forum by Vizag. Can I request Dr. Amreshwar to kindly start his case presentation?
Good afternoon, everybody. Today, I am going to present a case of pediatric child, pediatric female with both HIV and TB. The main reason for presenting this case is to know the preferred and alternative ART regimen of child with the HIV and TB and dosage adjustments of that ATT and ritonavir booster dose in pediatric HIV TB cases, as individual ritonavir drug is not available in ART centers. A female child, a female child came to our ART center uh, at her 9 months age. That is on February 2017. And on the same day itself, ART has been initiated, and her birth weight is 2.5 kgs, and her weight at the time of ART initiation was 4 kgs. And she has been initiated on ALLR, abacavir, lamivudine, and lopinavir with boosted ritonavir, as per the weight band of 4 kgs. And from the since the day of ART initiation, she was LFU, that is for 4 years, and did not use the ART even for 1 day. and recently she presented with cough and shortness of breath and was admitted in pediatric ward in our King George Hospital, Vizag, in the month of July 2021. And there the child was investigated thoroughly and was diagnosed to be biliary TB. And her father, for which we have prescribed ATT along with the change of ART regimen from ALLR to ALE, abacavir, lamivudine, and efavirenz. But even then, she didn't use that ALE and ATT also because her condition was critical. Even she can't take the oral drug. The child expired on 22nd July 2021. That is after 5 days. As informed by her father on the phone. On inquiring, he further told that her mother, who is the child's mother, was diagnosed to be HIV positive at the time of delivery and was initiated on ART. Even she also didn't take the medication, ART, and expired 2 years after delivery due to gradual deterioration of health. So the child, the summary is that parents are both parents are positive. Actually, our Wuhan people also tracked many times, but they couldn't retrieve her, retrieve the parents, because they are illiterate and they belong to tribal area. And whenever we contacted them, they told that we will be coming the next week. They prolonged and came in a critical situation, due to which we lost the mother and also the child. And at the time of initiation, the CD4 was 52. Hemoglobin and total lymphocyte count was all okay. That's the thing.
Can you please repeat this? The CD4 count, can you please? I just missed.
52, madam. At the time of ART initiation, first time.
So, yeah, can we just leave the issues for discussion here? Yeah. So would anybody from the participants or the audience or the expert like to ask any more questions or clarifications from Dr. Amreshwar for better understanding of the case? Is there anybody who would like to say something before I summarize the case for the benefit of the House? And Radha, can you see a hand or anybody, a message?
No, ma'am, there is no hand up or any message. Now, meanwhile, I would like to inform you, Dr. Ravi from our team, he's our associate project director. He has also joined. In fact, he is the one who is motivating all the teams from AP to join. So
that's excellent. Excellent. Welcome, Dr. Ravi, and thank you for all that you and your team do to make this initiative possible.
Okay, I want to ask one question.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Did you see the features of malnutrition in the child? Did you examine that there is any edema or any length or height, whatever? Like 5 years, you have to take the height also. Wasting was there or not? Midamasak or any?
I have seen the patient at the time of registration. After that, she was LFU.
At the time.
Her father came us to the ART center and told that she got admitted in pediatric ward.
Okay. So it didn't get any information whether there was a severe acute malnutrition or not, because that is
changed the regimen to ALE, and also we have prescribed ATT.
Okay, so I'll discuss that.
There are 2 more hands up. I could see Dr. Anuradha Johri, who had her hand raised up. Dr. Anuradha, you have a query?
Please
Doctor-
request.
Yeah, unmute me. I wanted to ask that was any ABG done on this for this child, and why did you not think of admitting if the child was so severe?
Dr. Amreshwar, would you like to reply?
Pardon, ma'am?
ABG.
Ma'am,
ABG,
actually the child was admitted in the pediatric ward of
Pediatric ward.
KTH Vizag, and to their center, like the HIV ART OPD, only the father came after 3-4 days. So they did not examine the child this time. The child was under the care of the pediatrician of the medical college.
Oh, okay. But still ABG should have been done, I think.
Yes, I totally
Okay.
agree. Totally.
And also, I think child should have been admitted.
No, the child was admitted. The child was admitted in the pediatric ward of the same hospital,
Okay.
the medical
Okay.
college.
Okay.
Ma'am, there was another hand up from the ART Anakapalli. ART Anakapalli, do you have a query? Do you want to ask something about the case? Yes, please go ahead. ART Anakapalli, please.
No, ma'am.
Okay, all right.
Okay. So for the benefit of the house, I would just now summarize the case. So ART Center Vizag has presented a case in which a 5-year-old female CLHIV who was currently 10 kgs of weight had been registered in their center about 4 years ago when the child was a 9-month-old baby. And the child was registered in February 2017. And on the same day, they had started the patient on, as per the weight band, they had started the patient on ALPR. That is abacavir, lamivudine, lopinavir, and ritonavir, because the child was only 4 kg. And at that time, the CD4 was 52, and the counts and HB was okay. But you can see that the child was very much underweight for a 9-month-old baby. She was only 40 kgs at that time. So though the child was started on abacavir and lamivudine, the child did not take it even for a day. And the entire family, even though both the patient's parents were positive, and the mother had also been simultaneously, it seems, advised ART, the family disappeared. It never came back to the ART center. The most probable reason, as Dr. Amreshwar has informed, that they were from a tribal area, and they even though they could be contacted again and again, they really didn't come back. Either they didn't understand the problem was so serious, or they had competing priorities like arranging food to put in their mouths, or it is the general problem that we always see with marginalized populations, tribal populations. These are always difficult to reach populations. So even if you have good plans and good programs in place, the problem is that it doesn't reach these populations. So this is one of the major things that every national program in this country faces, that whatever intervention you may do or you may make available, it somehow never percolates to this marginalized population. Even if they're able to access it, somewhere their thinking and our thinking is slightly at a divergence, and usually we lose such patients. So now what happened was, when the child got very sick 4 years later, and the child is nearly 5-year-old, the father had no choice, I think, except to bring her to the hospital, and where she must have been seen in the emergency and admitted to the pediatric ward of KGH Vizag. In the pediatric ward, what they realized was that the child was very sick. She was 10 kg. She was only 10 kgs despite of being 5 years old. She was 4S positive, and I think the X-ray showed a miliary TB. This is the information that they got from the ward when the father came to the ART center in middle of September to middle of July 2021, and informed the ART center. And that also must have been on the insistence of the ward doctor, that you are HIV positive, you have to go to the ART center. Then they must have told that they already are there. Like, this is the usual story that all of us see, that we are already registered. Then he must have gone and met Dr. Amreshwar, and Dr. Amreshwar would have discussed that, why have you not been around? We have been trying to track you. Is that right, Dr. Amreshwar? Was this the story? So the child was
Yes, ma'am.
advised ATT and had there was actually no time. There was no time to do a CD4 count. There was no time to do a viral load. The child was advised ATT, but even before I think she could start treatment, the child expired because her GC was very, very poor. I think Dr. Amreshwar would not have the information whether they tried giving ATT through a Ryle's tube or maybe only the injectable component was tried in the child. So I think probably he wouldn't have that information because it was in the pediatric ward. So the issues that he has highlighted today is that what would be the ATT? It is 4 FDC. So how do we go about in this child advising ATT? Well, for that, Dr. Amrinder, it is ATT is same for everyone. It is always according to weight band and according to age of the person. So you would have to follow the pediatric charts for ATT. But the other very pertinent questions that they ask is, what about ART? What would we have given in this case? And what would have been the dose adjustments in a CLHIV? Could rifabutin have been an option? And if it is available, then is it an option? Or if it is unavailable, then what to do? And in malnourished cases, if this child fell to less than 9 kg, then efavirenz would have got out. Then what they could have done. So these are some pertinent issues. I think these are very important issues because we are always slightly gray when it comes to pediatrics, because pediatrics is such a delicate and important population, and most of us have inadequate training in pediatrics, very frankly speaking. At the medical officer level, our training in pediatrics is very less. So that could have been a this session and this talk is very, very important, and these issues flagged by Dr. Amreshwar are very important. So Dr. Amreshwar, thank you very much. If anybody would like to make any comments now, I can see a raised hand. Are these accidental raised hands or is it a genuine raised hand? Can you please find out, Anuradha?
Yes, ma'am. ART, RDT, Vadatapalli, do you want to say something? Do you have a query?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Please go
Good
ahead.
afternoon, all.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Yes, I would like to say that this is a kind of a different kind of case. Why? Because every time during these sessions, we were discussing more clinical questions. But there are two challenges over here, as you are rightly pointing it out. It is a social case where the scenario is very, very difficult in the tribal areas to retrieve the cases. Generally, people are not willing to get back to the ART centers. And that's what happened in this case. What I believe, there has been no information regarding what has happened after registration and what has happened before death. So in this 5 years gap, a lot of attempts would have been made by the ART center team and the outreach team to retrieve the case, but we imagine that they have all failed, and patient was brought, the kid was brought in a very terminal stage. But we can imagine the social aspect of this case as one challenge here. And it is never, pediatrics is never a well-served plate like we should be happy with the diagnosis of miliary TB. It is not like that. The child, as madam has rightly pointed out, it could have been a very bad case of severe acute malnutrition, which has got very poor prognosis. And even the GCS of the child, how it has been, whether we had to look at any meningeal signs or any TB meningitis, which adds further to the morbidity and mortality of the case. This is also a very big challenge. Why? Because the scenario on the government side will be like the pediatric people will just ask the ART medical officer and come and talk about the ART only. And generally, the success depends on how far the two teams are coordinated. The pediatric team and the ART team, how good is the coordination between those two teams will save the lives there actually. But for me, I believe like a lot of analysis would have been done by the pediatric team, which we do not have it here. Like what is the ABG, what is the CSF analysis, what is the X-ray picture is looking like, what is the current CD4 count, and what are all the renal and liver parameters. We do not have. So we are missing a very big clinical data after which we had to discuss probably. But as we do not have that, the second challenge comes to the present right now, the entire country And at least as far as I believe, in the 3 states of Andhra, Karnataka, and Tamil Nadu, we do not have rifabutin. And even for the adults also, we are facing this issue, like people are on lopinavir ritonavir based regime, and we do not have rifabutin, and we are stuck up, like we are going back to the failing regimen of tenofovir, lamivudine, efavirenz in some cases. And some centers have resorted. Why? Because right now in my department, where we take care of, we are a 100-bedded inpatient hospital. We get seropositive admissions from all over the state, almost nearby districts. So here we have 3 centers children where they have given dolutegravir, even though the child's weight is less than 20 kgs. One child is 12 kg, one child is 14 kg, one child is 15 kg. So in this scenario, my doubt, why I raised my hand is, why we have got this 20 kg limitation for children or any other person with HIV to be started on dolutegravir as 20 kilos weight. That's what is there in our protocol.
So,
Okay. So is this like we can give in current situation where we do not have rifabutin to give for those who are on protease inhibitors, and we are not in a position to super boost with individual ritonavir, as we do not have ritonavir also. So in these cases, reduced dose of dolutegravir, can it be given on weight based, or is it like we cannot give for those who are weighing less than 20 kilos? Is
so
my
this
doubt.
is an excellent question, Dr. Saab. And because we are, and whatever you said is excellent, relevant, very right. And we know that they are details missing. But so what we did was we took out what we could discuss from this. So we took out what is the latest on dolutegravir, and your question is exactly what will be answered by Dr. Kalpana in her talk. And if you do not get your answer to the question in her talk, please ask it again at the end of the session. Can I request you for
Sure.
that in the interest of time?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I would now like to request Dr. Kalpana to deliver her talk. She, as I already explained, is a very senior HIV pediatrician. She is the director of the Center of Excellence in Medical College, Kolkata. And it is indeed a privilege to have her with us. May I request her to give her talk on preferred and alternative ART regimens of CLHIV co-infected with TB and the dose adjustments required, and also to give expert comments on this case after her talk. Welcome, madam.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Upashana, for your kind introductions. And I'd like to thank the Anuradha and our entire team of NISHCHIT for giving me this opportunity to share my experiences and day-to-day clinical experiences with all the participants. And I heard all the questions and interesting questions. I'll be answering one by one. First, one thing I would like to say, Dr. Amareshwar, he has presented very nicely the case, but I'd like to inform when the patient has registered first time. At that time you said is a 4 kg. After a few, okay, after a few sentences, I'll share my screen. So what was the birth weight? 2.9.
2.5, madam.
2.5. And as a medical officer, it's very difficult to calculate the exact age, I know. So you just know in 5 months it will be double, in 9 months it will be triple. So this is a common formula for all the medical officers and all who are working in the OPD basis. So it should have been at least 7 kg, 2.5. So 7.5 kg by 9 months, but it is 4 kg. Yes. So by guessing, not by calculating also, you know it is a severe malnutrition at that particular time. So that was the time you should have a screen first. So not directly we'll start the ART in the very first day, especially in even the rapid initiation advanced disease, you are going to have all the sensitization program. Even in advanced disease package, when you are dealing with the children 5 years and below, you should have a screening. And in case of SAM child, or if there's any other complication, first you have to stabilize the child. Then you have to give the ART. So that is the thing should have been done. And I think it will do in the future also. And then someone asked about the ABG. I think ABG is not the diagnosis of choice in ART center. Mobile is no facilities available anywhere in the ART center. They can do the ABG. I don't think so, because ours are quite developed hospital, tertiary care hospital, referral hospital. Even the ART center doesn't have any machine or thing to do the ABG. Until unless you admit the patient, you cannot do the ABG. And what extra information will get from the ABG? Only the metabolic acid disease or alkalosis, what is the metabolic status? So you have to have the admission. Second, someone asked about the rifabutin. Again, in rifabutin, it is not contraindicated in children, but there's no sufficient data to say it can be used. So still now, there's no recommendation of using rifabutin in our children. Rest of the questions answer I'll be talking after my presentation. So now I'll share my screen. And
Yes, ma'am, your screen is visible. You can just go to the presentation mode, please.
Yeah. I'm searching the that one. Okay. So first of all, I would like to say I'm not going on a bookish type presentations one by one. You will get many times in your training and sensitization program and in a book. So I try to give my clinical acumen and how you will be suspicious about the tuberculosis and how you will pick up early the tuberculosis in children. Because it's entirely different as you see in the adult. So what is the objective? We'll understand the dynamics of HIV-TB co-infection in children, know the TB screening protocol to be followed in ART center, learn the revised diagnostic algorithm of TB in children with living with HIV, because there is recently a bit change in the algorithm. Then the prescribed daily anti-tuberculosis treatment in the ART center, and what is the prescribed ART along with the TB co-infection. So pediatric TB is a direct consequence of the adult TB. So the each and every visit of the pediatric patient, you must take the history of contact in the family. Others will miss the tuberculosis, because one of the screening point is a history of contact. And how will you define the history of contact? Any adult person is suffering from tuberculosis or has suffered from tuberculosis in the last 2 years. ऐसा भी हो सकता है, they will say कि मेरा तो था काफी पहले and finish the ATD, so I didn't bother. No, if it is within the history of 2 years, it should be considered as a contact positive. And in any patient, children, if has a history of contact positive, we have to screen for the tuberculosis. That's a very, very important part. And you might ask, why 2 years? I think Dr. Question is there. She is quite you is expert to answer this question, but we will know that the tuberculosis bacilli run in families more than 90% in 2 years. After that, it die out. It does not won't infect in any person. On that basis, it has taken the definition for 2 years at least. If there's any TB, you should consider as a contact positive. Second, increasing level of co-infection TB and HIV in children with the dual epidemics. We know that we are getting the HIV and there is a co-infection and there's a chances of high TB, and both are incidence of both are increasing. Childhood TB, the severe malnutrition, and HIV infection contributes to the increased mortality. As we know, the HIV is acquired immunodeficiency. Similarly, malnutrition, that is severe malnutrition, is also nutritionally acquired. We say NATS. Here we say AIDS, there we say NAIDS, NAIDS, nutritionally acquired immunodeficiency. So it can kill the child, any child, due to the severe malnutrition, as HIV can kill a child without treatment. So the malnutrition is one of the competitor of HIV. And if you think that the baby is suffering from HIV and mobile baby is having severe acute malnutrition, what is the immune status? And thereafter the TB. So it increases the rapid increase of the mortality in case of children if both the TB and malnutrition is there in HIV children. And that is a very common association. Infection with HIV is a strong risk factor progression from latent to active tuberculosis. We know very common, because if there's a exposure, I'll show the flow chart how the active tuberculosis from transfer to the latent tuberculosis convert into active tuberculosis. We know there is an interplay between the host resistance, the infective dose, and the sensitivity of the disease, that latent tuberculosis will be converted into active tuberculosis. So the TB control activities taken place in the world. And you see that 2018, about 10 million new cases in TB. out of which 11% were children in the world, and 251,000 deaths due to TB among the HIV positive children. I'm talking about the children. So how much contribution by the mortality due to HIV TB in the world. Globally, 57 cases were among the men in children, and the ratio is quite common. And if you see, highest incidence among 5, India is contributing the highest number of cases. That is 27% of the total 57% cases in the world. So if you see this, a global estimate, there's a black boundary and there's a red bars, and the Turkish bars is in there. So because the male and female distribution, and the black boundaries are the number of cases, prevalent cases of tuberculosis. You see, there's a white portion is a gap. If you notice this bar chart, you will see as you gradually go down, these white portions are increasing in number. Once it is in the adolescent phase, young adult, and again in the below 5 years. So in the case, what is happening? Why there is a gap? There is the case detection gap. Means you are expecting this much of TB, but you are getting this much of only the red and blue color was the number of TB, but whole bar is the expected number of TBs. So a huge detection gap in under 5 years. You see, this much only the turquoise and red, and this much white part is the detection gap. That means they are suffering from tuberculosis, but they are underreported, underdiagnosed, or misdiagnosed. So if you go down from above, you will see under 5 is hugely missed. So the huge gap between the actual incidence and the detected and treated. So childhood TB is not the same as a TB in a miniature in the world. What we do, whenever there's a meeting, there's a formulation, guidelines, everything is based on adult, then we try to mold that guideline into the pediatric. That should not be, because it is not a half of the adult. It's a different individual, has a different challenges in type of disease, diagnosis, and treatment. So cannot put in same frame as you put in an adult, because the type of disease is different, the procedure of diagnosis is different, treatment will change. So it has a unique features. Children in families with TB often have a double disadvantage, because higher rates of infection means if there's having latent infection will convert it to the disease, and might have has a loss of family members, caregivers, there may be death of the parents because of the TB and HIV. So there's a double challenge for the children. Needs a separate focal point and involvement of the pediatricians along with the TB and public health. Otherwise, it is very difficult to fill this gap. Roadmap to end TB has to be inclusive of children. It's not that we want to eliminate the TB in this world and we'll have a adult guideline and incorporate the children in that guideline, and we extrapolate the data from the adult and apply in the children. That is not going to eliminate the TB in this world. So underdiagnosis and under-reporting TB is a challenge in pediatrics. Child-specific diagnosis management are needed as a part of TB care. Just as the children are not miniature, I have always said this, challenges is to train the pediatric healthcare providers. So who are the doctors or healthcares who are dealing with the pediatric patient? May not be pediatrician. They should have some training about diagnosis, identification, diagnosis, investigations, and management. So need to integrate TB care more effectively with child survival strategies, and there should be a separate guideline for pediatric TB and HIV. Often TB is underdiagnosed and underreported due to simple sensitive point of care tests like sputum smears of adult. If patient is having cough in adult, you can ask them to expectorate, you can collect the sputum, you can send it for the CBD, and that is not going to happen in case of pediatrics, because it's very difficult to collect the sample and send it for the test. So these sensitive investigations are not available at the point of care. So there's a lots of cases are misdiagnosed. TB control strategy not so well equipped for the diagnosis of TB among the children. The program, even the TB control, were the TB the officers like CTO, city tuberculosis officer, district tuberculosis officer, state tuberculosis, they are also not well equipped with the pediatric TB. Program is organized with the adult case in mind. Childhood TB action thus often need to retrofit into the mold already set for the adults. Differences in the disease and diagnosis among the adult and children create racism. So bacteriology to radiology. But in pediatrics, it is a radiology to bacteriology. So first we see the X-ray and then suspect. So what is if there is a combined infection, HIV and TB, what will happen? TB, we know, TB can hasten the disease progression, HIV, and there will be more opportunistic infection because TB also causes the suppression of immune cells, and that will lead to more and more viral replications, and then we rapid progression. And especially in pediatric age, there is at such the HIV is rapidly progress because it's the phase of growth and development. So immune phase is growing phase, and you are hammering on the growing thing. So if you hammer in a growing thing, there will be a diversion. But if you hammer in a already grown thing, difficult, the damage will be minimum. So it is a huge damage in the immune system, and that can progress the HIV very rapidly. We know there is a rapid progressor, slow progressor, and some elite people are there. But in case of pediatric HIV, 70% progression takes place rapidly. If you won't interfere, they will die. 30% will die in the first year. 40% they don't see their second birthday. So such a hasten disease will be there. And if there is a HIV is there, we know in HIV there is just a separation of CD4 cells, and that will again also lead to the more and more chances of TB, because the latent TB which is there will be converted to the active TB and can also have a different atypical presentations. Sometimes there is a chances of getting multi-drug resistant TB. So in HIV, patients have if you see this chart, bar chart, that's only the HIV negative patients. If there's a latent TB, chances of having active TB in the lifetime is only 10%. But if it's the HIV positive, then it is the chances of having active TB is the 60%. So it's a quite rapid and progression from active TB to disease. Now, what are the four-pronged strategy taken by the National Tuberculosis Elimination Program to reduce the mortality due to tuberculosis? The prevention, early detection, prompt treatment, and management of the special cases. So what are the preventive therapy? INS preventive therapy, airborne infection control, and awareness generation. Early detection means you have to detect very early. So it is a 100% coverage of provider-initiated HIV testing and counseling in TB patients. Presumptive TB, rapid diagnostic TB should be available, and intensive case finding. Prompt treatment, as soon as you'll diagnose, you promptly initiate tuberculosis TB treatment and early initiation of ERT. And again, I'll discuss the initiation of ERT and TB in the different slides. Management of special HIV TB cases, especially when there's a PI-based regime, what will you do if HIV, especially in the younger children, less than 10 kg, less than 3 years, and then what to do? And HIV TB pregnant ladies, and if there's a drug resistance TB. So these are these should be dealt separately with the special care. So implication of HIV TB co-infection, need to screen all HIV patients in each visit. Similarly, this particular patient should have been screened in the very first visit, whether the baby was having tuberculosis or not. Need to screen all TB HIV for active promotion and routine offering by the test during testing also. So what are the factors which can increase the TB infection? And from there are three stages we know. First the exposure, second the infection, third is the disease. And in the disease again, then the fourth is the progression of the disease. So what are the factors which can increase the disease? Because of the exposure, because the family members are positive with the TB, overcrowding, air pollution means because of the airborne. So cases cavitary disease means there's a more and more production of AB vessel while coughing. Cough frequency, cough hygiene not properly maintained, delay in the treatment for adult case, and contact the source cases, closeness and duration is very important. So the family members is suffering from TB, chances of TB infection quite high. And if the younger the age, severe malnutrition, presence of HIV which is having immunosuppressions, then if there's a history of measles, this is also a condition where there is severe immunosuppression, and then they are more prone to develop the progression of the severe disease. Not BCG vaccinated, though the BCG does not prevent the TB infection, but it will at least restrict the spread. It can prevent the miliary form and tuberculosis meningitis form, but other TB for type of disease can happen even after giving the BCG vaccination. So lack of prophylaxis for INH. Now the flow chart in a short, I'll say, if there's a source case, so there's an exposure of the child. Now exposure, all exposure only to infection. Some will be having infection 30%, rest only on infection, there will be latent infection. And this all depend upon the factors which I've already explained, like severe malnutrition, measles infection, immunosuppression, that will decide whether the infection will be there or latent infection there. If there's latent infection, you'll be in the no disease. But if there's an infection and there's a decrease in the immunity or superadded any other vaccine preventable disease like whooping cough, measles, or severe malnutrition, that will lead to primary disease. And if this not the immunity is high, then there may be persistent latent infection. And that primary disease risk of developing is a lifetime, as I already shown the picture, the 10% in the negative HIV negative patient, but is a 50% in the positive patient, most so in the infancy. And the latent disease, which are latent inside the chest, it may react anytime, whenever there's a depression with the immunity, and that will cause a late reactivation of the disease and progression. So when there's a primary infection, what will happen? Either it is contained inside the lung, or it will may progress, like dyseminous tuberculosis, meningitis, or miliary tuberculosis. That is called progressive primary disease. And if it's contained and immunity is good, then it will be naturally healed, or might be, as IPT you are giving or any treatment is given, that is treated. But reinfection after naturally healed or treated, which is having a more risk. It is having a more risk who are having a reactive, naturally healed. So that's why we used to give the IPT, so that it can be prevented from the latent infection to the disease. Again, in the Ghon's complex means primary focus in the lung, then the running lymphangitis, lymphadenitis, that is called Ghon's complex. So that lymph node can involve the bronchus, can cause erode, can cause consolidation, emphysema, ball valve mechanism. I'm not going all details, all this is a theoretical part totally. But one thing I would like to say here, if the regional lymph node erode the bronchus and suddenly discharge the caseous materials in the bronchus, that is called endobronchial tuberculosis. Endobronchial tuberculosis is one of the emergency type of tuberculosis like miliary tuberculosis, because in miliary also there will be respiratory failure, and in endobronchial tuberculosis also baby will be very sick and may die if you won't intervene in time. So mother symptom complex for TB screening for HIV. As we know, the adolescent current cough, fever, weight loss, night sweat as in the adult. But in case of children less than 15 years, always take the history of cough, current cough, fever, poor weight gain, and contact with the TB case. But again, one thing is very important, like current cough. Children are very much prone to develop any type of URTI or LRTI due to the seasonal changes, due to allergic rhinitis, due to Warley virus associated lower respiratory infection. So each cough, that is the medical officer's duty to whether you will think it is an upper respiratory infection or it is the case of you have to screen for tuberculosis, because otherwise they'll be over investigated and sometimes we might miss the actual tuberculosis. So whenever you get the current cough, please look for the local site like upper respiratory, throat and pharynx and all. Throat pain is there or not, or is there any earache? Earache is there, middle ear is a direct communication with the respiratory, so there might be having earache. All these things must look for. Then if you think no, it is not there, then you send for the, though in the program it is written, okay, any type of current cough you have to investigate, but it's a medical officer working in the OPD, you should see whether you should send for the investigation for tuberculosis or it is due to the viral upper respiratory infection, which is very common. Then if it is any of the four things is there, then investigate for TB. If it's not there, then think other treatments. Now, if there's a, yes, it is a there. What we'll do? We'll do the X-ray and CBNAT. If X-ray and CBNAT radiology, if the characteristic radiological pictures are there are three types. There may be no radiological features. Sometimes there may be a non-specific radiological features, and sometimes typical for the radiological feature for the tuberculosis, like primary complex, presence of lymph node, cavitations. These are the typical of tuberculosis changes, radiological changes in tuberculosis. Or you can have some other effusion or consolidation. Maybe tuberculosis may not be tuberculosis. So by X-ray You cannot differentiate sometimes if it's non-specific changes, then you have to go for the CBNAT. This is also challenging. I'll discuss a bit. But if there's no TB, then of course we know the flow chart. I'm not going detail. If it's a TB, you tip to TB. If there's no TB, follow up the patient and give IPT. If the baby is more than 12 months. So we won't give the IPT to the less than 12 months old children, because until unless if the mother is having a HIV contact, TB, or any definite history of TB in the family. So history of contact is there, then only will give the IPT in infants below 12 months. But before initiating IPT, you must rule out the baby is not suffering from tuberculosis. So below 12 months, when there's a history of contact, you must rule out the tuberculosis active disease. If it's not there, then only give the IPT. So diagnostic algorithm in TB, HIV infection co-infection, as I said, intensified TB case finding, and all 4 symptoms. If cough, when medical officer will rule out if this cough is not because of the other respiratory, upper respiratory infection or other cause. And then TB suspect, they will go for the pulmonary TB suspect or extra pulmonary TB suspect. Because many a times the children comes with the only weight loss or not gaining weight. Mother will complain for the last 3-4 months, baby is not gaining weight or losing weight, or the low grade fever is there. Baby is not playing well. So sometimes we might not get typical feature of cough and fever. So you suspect it could be pulmonary TB, it could be extra pulmonary TB. If it's a pulmonary TB, then CBNAT and X is very important. If it's extra pulmonary TB, sometimes you might not get the site where it is a TB, but you are thinking baby is losing weight, having low grade fever. Then you have to do the other investigation, likely you have to search the lymph nodes, organomegalies. If there's a ascites, you have to go for the clinical examination. Then if you are not able to demonstrate any fluid, then you have to see the ultrasonography and the other sites where you can suspect. I've tried to give some pictures so that you can have an idea what are the possible sites can have a tuberculosis and other than lung. And then so the pulmonary TB, the commonest cause of extra pulmonary TB is the lymph node. So the lymph node, you always look for the lymph node. If you miss the lymph nodes, because sometimes they won't complain, it is not so obvious. Sometimes it may be in the axillary, maybe in the inguinal region. So always look for that. These patients also, I say, Dr. Amareshwar, you should have seen the thorough examination and of course the lymph nodes and organomegaly is a very important aspect to examine. Then if the CBNAT is positive, then microbiologically positive TB, you have to diagnose the case. If it's CBNAT is not positive, but the X-ray is the suggestive of TB, as I said, there's a lymphadenopathy, there's a constellation, medial constellation, the cavitation, then you can think of the clinically diagnosed TB, or both, maybe there, or both are normal. CBNAT is negative, the X-ray is negative, you can think of non-TB, and other than any other disease, you have to rule out and treat accordingly. Or if you get the extrapulmonary TB, you have to treat according to the extrapulmonary TB site. So this is the most important part in pediatrics, diagnosis of microbiologically and sample collection. The sample collection is very difficult because the baby, they don't expectorate. They don't spit out the sputum. What will they do? They have to swallow the sputum. First, the below 6 years, they cannot expectorate. Above 6 years also, if they can expectorate, they won't cup out. They will swallow the sputum. So collection of sputum is very difficult. Second, the pediatric TB is usually possibly, then easily it is a lymph node. So there's no communication in the bronchus, may not expectorate, there may not having any sputum. Sometimes you collect the sputum, but it will collect the saliva, not the sputum. So these are the problems we face while dealing with the pediatric TB. Then the gastric aspect. Again, in gastric aspect is you need the expertise. You have to learn how to introduce the RAS to one. So usually it is done in the indoor basis. You have to get a patient admitted. You have to draw the sample. It is better to draw the sample early in the morning, because in the whole night he will swallow and it will be in there. And before getting up, we say before getting up from the bed and having something in the so early in the morning and empty stomach. Because if you get up and walk or you have something to eat or drink, there more pests will be there, and the whatever collected in the gut will go down. So gastric aspiration is to be done in the early in the morning in empty stomach, or you can, if the older children, you can ask them to fast for 4 hours, sit in the ART and take it on the sample. That is not sometimes feasible. So it is better to admit the child. Then third is the induced sputum. What happens in even induced sputum? I'll show one case also in induced sputum. First, you have to nebulize the child with this salbutamol, because we'll do induced sputum by 3% sodium chloride. Now that will cause the bronchospasm. So you cannot do it in the even in the OPD basis. Very difficult. Then for the induced sputum also, you have to either in the pediatric emergency or in the ward, you have to do it. So first you nebulize it with the bronchodilator, then you give the 3% NaCl, and then baby will cough, and then you will collect. But even though it may be false, what will happen? Whenever the cough will come, and baby will expect it, and they used to swallow. So what we used to do, even after induced sputum, you collect the gastric aspirate. That can be the done. And then of course, if the lymph node is palpable, pathologically enlarged more than 1 centimeter, you can do the lymph node aspiration, and if it's not feasible or possible, then you can do the lymph node biopsy and all. So these are the you have to collect the sample, and then you have to send it for the CBNet first. Then of course you simultaneously can do it for the culture and smear if facility is available, or now we are doing then the program is coming, the urine lamb you can do. So as I hello,
ma'am, I'm sorry to interrupt, but can we like it's already 3 o'clock.
Oh, sorry. I'm just go.
Yeah,
So I'm going fast. So just I'll show the pictures. And the clinical. So you see, it is lymph node. It can be in the lymph node. It can present with say malnutrition or high lymph node or cervical. So I'm not going all details. Just at the visual impression. So these are the different type of formation. You see, there's a bronchus is compressed. That this is the miliary TB X-ray. This is the cavitations. This is the one important I want to highlight. This a 7-year-old child came with me, the sudden swelling for this in the back for 8 days. Everyone's thinking it's a lipoma. I said, why there will be lipoma in 8 days time? So it was a cold abscess, and we did the X-ray. You see the X-ray, pleural effusion is there, and there in between there's a consolidation also there, and it was a cold abscess presented without any symptom, only the swelling. So this is the, I'm not going in detail. This is the one patient who come with the gibbus. Again, and in gibbus, the bone TB, must suspect the TB, and it was the case of bone TB, spinal TB. So I'm going to only treatment part, which is the question of today. I'm not going this thing. Okay.
I'm so sorry, ma'am. I hate to interrupt. I'm very, very sorry.
No. I actually can't see the watch here. Full screen.
Okay,
there, no?
I'm so sorry.
No, it's all right. Management of HIV TB co-infection. That is the question and problem for today. So timing ART is HIV. If baby is already in ART, and if you want to add the ATD, then okay, you have to add. Otherwise, if you baby is not the first case, naive patient, you want to start the ATD as in the adult, you start the ATD antitubercular drug first, then start the ART. And the recent guideline now in this guideline is written less than 50, start within 2 weeks, and more than 50, then 2 weeks, 2 months. But recent guideline, which is 2021 WHO said, I mean, we are also incorporating. See, as early as possible, all cases you have to start within 2 weeks. That is going to come recently. So appropriate regime should be there. What should be the regime? I'll discuss a bit. Less than 6 years, as we are talking about the dolutegravir also. So suppose that the baby is less than 6 years and less than 20 kg, and we know from 0 to 6 years and 20 kg, the first line of drug was abacavir, not zidovudine. Previously, we used to give the zidovudine, the abacavir, lamivudine, and super boosting lopinavir, ritonavir. So it should be 1:1 ratio. The first option. Now, if it's like less than 3 years, now as the first line is abacavir, lamivudine, and lopinavir, ritonavir in all cases from 0 to 6 years up to 20 kg. So if you want to give the ATD, then it should be 1:1. But ritonavir is not available everywhere. Very difficult to make it 1:1 with the lopinavir, ritonavir situation. In that case, as I already shown in this slide, the dolutegravir, the question was why dolutegravir was not included, because that was not available. Dolutegravir can be used even in the infants also. So now it is going to be available. I think they are purchasing HIV NACO people, and in the next guideline it will be there, dolutegravir. So in 6 to 10 also you can use the dolutegravir. And additional tab, that is very important. Whenever you give the dolutegravir, and if you are adding antitubercular drugs, it should be 12 hours apart another drug. So it will be abacavir, lamivudine, and dolutegravir 2 doses, 12 hours apart. Even in us below 6 years, below 10 kg, there are 2 doses coming recently for 50, the 50 for the above 6 years, and 25 for 6 years, below 6, even 10 milligram is also going to available. So we can use even in the infancy also. And above 10 years and even 30 years, this is tenofovir, lamivudine, dolutegravir, and if you are getting at ATD, another tablet of dolutegravir 50 milligram, 12 hours apart. So if suppose the ritonavir is not available, this is the question of the today's case. So what should have been given? If a baby is less than 10 kg, less than 3 years, then you cannot give the efavirenz. Above 6 years, above 3 years, above 10 kg, okay. As this particular case, you have started efavirenz, you can give efavirenz in case of ALE with ATD. But in case of where you cannot use, or there is a hypersensitivity and all, in that particular case, you have to give dolutegravir. But if there is a you have stopped efavirenz either because of the weight or age, less than 10 kg and less than 3 years, or because of neurotoxicity, then you can switch over to the nevirapine. So you can give the nevirapine in that particular case, though it's phasing out, but nevirapine syrup is still available. You can give the nevirapine, but 30% extra dose if you are giving antitubercular. So there are 3 options. Either you give the dolutegravir with the antitubercular drug, 1 extra dose, 12 hours worth. Second, if you want to give the lopinavir, ritonavir based drug, then it should be 1:1 ratio. Or 2 options are not there. You can give the efavirenz. If it's not possible, then you give the nevirapine, 30% extra of the usual dose. And fourth question was why rifabutin? Rifabutin is not a contraindication for childhood tuberculosis, but no extensive data or study meta-analysis to recommend the rifabutin below in children is good. So there are chances of iris that should be very cautious, especially more so when they are severe malnourished. And the iris are 2 types, either unmasking iris or the relapsing iris. So in case of new appearance of suppose there is no lymphadenopathy, baby was having tuberculosis, pulmonary tuberculosis, and you added ATD, suddenly after 2 weeks, you will see the baby having a severe distress. And if you do the X-ray, there may be a widening of the mediastinum, or there may be other lymph nodes. So that may be the relapsing iris, or sometimes the unmasking. There is a convulsion, especially more so in the tuberculous meningitis, and there may be a tuberculoma. And or there's other lymph nodes enlarged, there may be pleural effusion, there may be a size of effusion will increase. So the iris might be there, and that time the CD4 will be guiding force for the diagnosis. So should I continue with the one thing I'd like to say? I won't say in detail. In newborn, if there's a history of contact, then only you give the INH. And before that, you have to rule out whether baby is suffering from tuberculosis or not. For that, you have to do the X-ray, because in the newborn, is really perinatal period infection. So you have to rule out the hepatosmegaly, CNS. If there's no tuberculosis, then you have to give the IPT. At the same dose, 10 million per kg, pilot supplementation. In adult, we give in 25 in children, and here we give the 6 milligram INH for children for 6 months, along with the INH 10 milligram per kg for 6 months, if there is a history of contact. That was the question for us. So there's no isolation until baby mother is a multi-drug resistant TB. Breastfeeding is should be given all the group of children whether mother is active TB, sputum positive, except in resistant. And INH prophylaxis is given all the cases. BCG vaccination is indicated in all the cases in the newborn. So I'm not going to talk in the perinatal TB. Okay, I think thanks for the patient sharing. I have taken
I don't think anybody could have given a better talk on this. It was so
thank you.
Excellent, ma'am. I wish we had the time to listen to all your cases, and like I'm really feeling sad that we should not
No.
able to do that.
Half an hour is okay. It's not good for a case of pediatric tuberculosis. It's a vast subject, so that's why I didn't get the cases. I gave the some X-rays and case
And
photographs.
ma'am,
That
you
is,
have given us pearls of your clinical experience. Like whatever
yes.
you told us was based so much on experience that this you cannot find in textbooks, and we are really thankful for that. Anyone from the house would want to ask anything?
Yes. Any questions?
So am I seeing any hands? So while we are waiting for hands, let me just explain that ma'am has spoken from her experience. I'm just sort of giving a very, very brief this thing. And pediatric TB is basically due to adult TB, and we should be very, very clear that ask a child of HIV who comes to you every time, ask if there was the child has come in contact with somebody who had TB in the past 2 years. As ma'am explained, 2 years is very important, and doing it on every visit is very important. And it is not only the parents, it is anybody who might have had a significant contact with. And Anuradha, please interrupt me if there's a question. Okay.
Right, ma'am.
So, and as ma'am explained, severe malnutrition itself is a nutrition acquired immune deficiency syndrome. On that, you add HIV, and then you have TB. So that chances of a CLHIV having mortality and a chance of a CLHIV being born to HIV positive being malnourished is so high that mortality in CLHIV is unacceptably high. In HIV, we see a very increased activation from latent to active TB. It would be only 10% in a non-HIV person, but it is 60% in a lifetime in a HIV positive person. Globally, about 251,000 deaths are in children who have TB and HIV. And India has the highest burden of disease. And another interesting thing that Madam showed us was that as we go down the age scale from 65 to a child, the more and more you reach near the childhood, the male and female ratio becomes 1. While we all know that in adult TB, males are more affected, but that distinction is lost in children. And there is a huge gap of detection of diagnosis of TB in children living with HIV who are under 5 years in children. And we have to understand that children are not miniature adults. And similarly, childhood TB is not a miniature TB, an adult in a miniature person. There are certain specific diagnostic problems, presentation problems, and treatment problems. So it has to be totally taken as a separate issue. Childhood TB, especially if there is TB in the family, and then the chances of a child getting TB are more. Number one, the child can fall sick, and secondly, its caregiver might have died or might be diseased due to TB. So it's a huge challenge. Like children getting TB is a huge challenge. There are several challenges of childhood TB. There can be a problem. There is a problem. There are decreased diagnosis. Then there is decreased treatments. There is lack of a simple point of care test for children like CBNAT is there for adults. That the TB control strategy of every TB program in the world, as of whatever limited knowledge I know, is not well equipped to diagnose TB in children. They all keep on focusing on microbiology. However, in children, it is radiology first and microbiology later. HIV and TB have a dual interaction. They work hand in hand, and 30% of the children will die in the first year and 40% till the second year if a child with HIV, the TB is not treated, as was the case in this particular child. The TB program, the country has NACO, the HIV TB collaborative program, has a 4-pronged strategy to decrease mortality in HIV, that is prevention, early detection of HIV TB, prompt treatment of both diseases, and management of special cases. We would now come, I would now actually, I would want to jump to the treatment, but one point that Madam made is very, very important. This current cough is a problem in children. When you start saying it is current cough, then children are very prone to other upper respiratory infections, the seasonal flus and otherwise minor infections of the throat. So if you have a child who is only presenting with current cough or a fever and it's a short duration, then it is a very, very good practice and a point to take home for all ART medical officers that please ask for throat pain, pain in the ear, and please do a simple torch examination. Ask the child to stick out his tongue and please examine the pharynx and tonsils and just see whether it is a simple upper respiratory tract infection instead of blindly sending the child for a complete workup for suspected or presumptive TB. Then X-rays, there are certain, the main challenge comes when you have atypical features in the X-ray, because sometimes TB in a child can present as consolidation, and it could be consolidation itself. We have to remember that IPT is not given in a child less than 12 months unless the mother is positive. The mother has a non-resistant or a drug-sensitive TB. Only then do we give INH prophylaxis in a child less than 12 months. And that too, the prerequisite is that you get the child examined for ruling out TB. And please remember, no ART center is equipped to rule out TB in a child less than 12 months. This is a very, very special situation, and you have to refer the child with a specific request to your pediatric center. Please do not start attempting to rule out TB in a child less than 12 years. It is even difficult for the most experienced pediatricians, so let alone somebody working in the limited resources of a ART center. Getting a sample is so difficult. You can either do induced sputum or gastric aspirates, all of which are almost IPD procedures. Remember, lymph node is the commonest site of EPTB in CLHIV. So if your X-ray is okay, and actually it is a very good practice to examine the child properly. When you are looking at the throat of the child, please, why not even properly do a lymph node examination? There could be a lymph node in the neck, in the axilla, or the groin, which the child is not aware of or doesn't think significant. So if you examine, do a quick and brisk lymph node examination, you would be able to pick up maximum EPTB cases in children. Then ma'am showed some excellent pics from her clinical practice, and the take-home message that she really told us about was that spinal TB can present as a simple asymptomatic cold abscess in the back, which would just present as a swelling in the back, or it would present as a gibbous, right? So these are two things that we have to remember. Coming to the HIV TB guidelines in children, start ATT first and start ART as soon as possible. By as soon as possible, we now in the currently revised guidelines mean within the first 2 weeks, as soon as the patient is able to tolerate the ATT. Now coming to the ART, for children who are less than 6 years and weight less than 20 kgs, our option would be, when we prescribe it with ATT, would be abacavir, lamivudine, and super boosted lopinavir, ritonavir, super boosted in the ratio of 1:1. The problem here is availability of ritonavir, loose ritonavir for super boosting, and also to some extent tolerance, because increased ritonavir is not very easy to tolerate orally. If the child is between 6 to 10 years or and more than 30 kg, then the preferred regimen would become abacavir, lamivudine, dolutegavir with an extra dose of dolutegavir 12 hours apart. And once the child crosses 10 years and is more than 30 kgs, then the regimen becomes like an adult. It would be tenofovir, lamivudine, dolutegavir with an extra dose of dolutegavir 12 hours apart. So as ma'am explained that in this particular child, there were 3 options. We could have used dolutegavir with ATT with an extra dose of dolutegavir. We could have probably super boosted lopinavir, ritonavir, and efavirenz we could have given till the child was over 10 years. And if for some reason the child's weight became less, or if there was an intolerance or seizures or some other problems, then there is an option of giving nevirapine in this particular child as the third ART drug, but with a 30% extra dose to compensate for the CYP induction caused by rifampicin.
And Dr.
Now,
Personal,
yes,
there is
ma'am.
another option. You can give 3-NRTI also.
Oh,
Sometimes
yes.
3-NRTI can be given, abacavir, lamivudine, and jadivudine. 3-NRTI only.
Yes, excellent. And if you have nothing, then of course, even 3 NRTIs are better than no ART. Please understand that. If you have nothing available, please at least start your 3 NRTIs regimen. As madam said, abacavir, lamivudine, and zidovudine. And as ma'am said, there was this question of rifabutin. Though it is not contraindicated in children, there is no actual recommendation also of how to give rifabutin. So usually we are not using rifabutin because we can play around with our ART and retain the rifampicin. It is always a good idea to retain rifampicin. So usually they are still focusing on retaining the rifampicin. And as ma'am said, iris is an issue in children as much as it is in adults. And in newborn, once again, she said, remember IPT only if there is a history of contact with a TB sputum positive mother. and that too only after you have ruled out active TB. I think this was a very, very small and very just a few points of what she had told us. It was such an excellent presentation. Would anybody want to ask anything? Dr. Amreshwar, have your doubts been clear? Could you get the point on malnutrition that we should have, like malnutrition assessment is very important because it is another kind of an acquired immune deficiency syndrome. Dr. Amreshwar, we can't hear you, sir.
Unmute, please. Unmute. You have not unmuted.
Unmuted, madam.
Is it okay? Are your questions answered? Do you want to ask ma'am something more?
You got your questions answered? Done?
Yes, madam. Yes.
Okay. If you have any query and further queries, any sort of problem, you can mail me. I'll reply in mail also. If you have any queries. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. And also the question of the doctor, I think he was a pediatrician. He had a very thorough knowledge of pediatrics in the beginning. Anuradha, from where was the doctor? It's missing.
Who was talking about the dolutegravir, no?
He was from Bathalapalli, ART RDT Bathalapalli.
Can you please take him online?
Yes. Can you please talk?
Sir, are you there?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, please.
Yes, sir. So as madam said, and I would pass on the mic to her, the plan is to go for dolutegravir in populations in children in CLHIV who are actually less than 6 years and less than 20 kg also. It is now very soon to be introduced in the program because the country is trying to acquire that dispersible tenofovir, the dispersible dolutegravir 10 milligram for children, but I am still handing over the mic to madam because she is an expert in the pediatric TRG. Ma'am, please can you answer his question about less than 6 years, weight less than 20?
Yeah. So it is already there. It's not dolutegravir. First thing is not contraindicated below 6 years. Only because of the availability and the drug purchasing and the programmatic issue, it was not there in the program. Now the NAQUES purchasing can be given even the newborn who are having the weight more than 4 kg. So even they can start in the infancy and to the children. Yeah, so it is going to available, and the next guideline which is going to publish in December 2021, or it will be available in 2022. The dolutegravir doses will be there as a part of and parcel of the management guideline.
Yes,
thank you, ma'am.
Oh,
So I think doctor, that solves our problem because once we can give it to newborns who are more than 4 kg, and we are not actually treating a lot of tuberculosis in the first 12 months or in newborn. So I think our problem of children is practically by and large sorted with dolutegravir. Is that okay, doctor?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So any further questions? Can we come back to the poll? Anuradha, is the poll done, the post-test questionnaire?
Yes, ma'am. Post-test and feedback both are done, ma'am.
Okay. So with these few closing remarks, thank you everyone. And if anybody would like to join again, you can please, this session would be repeated for our colleagues from West Bengal and UP and Delhi. And Anuradha, how many logins did we have today?
The highest number went around 83.
So, ma'am, there were 83 people logging in today, and like each center, sometimes there are 2 to 3 people. So it has the knowledge that you gave us today has been widely disseminated. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you to the presenter, and thank you to the team. And see you again, ma'am, next week.
Yeah, thank you, Upasana, for this wonderful compilation. Whatever I said, you so nicely compiled in summary.
Crystal clear, ma'am. Crystal clear.
It was very good to listen from your very nice.
Ma'am, that's the speciality of Upasana, ma'am. The summarization at the end is really excellent.
Yeah, excellent compilation.
Yeah.
Summary. Thank you.